Mhm. All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Nova Talks. Welcome to Nova Talks. Click some buttons, mute some background noise. There we go. Hello, everyone. Okay, I think we are live. I think we're ready to roll. I'm Jon McGowan. Welcome to Nova Talks. I'm very excited to be here. I am the CIO of Nova Echo. We are one of the leading conversational voice AI inventors and companies in the world. And for the last 2 years, we've been working on building out an advanced conversational voice AI platform, something that is designed from the ground up for people that want to manage and train their own AI employees. So unlike a lot of people that are trying to build conversational voice AIs to replace people, our vision from the start has been to try to build an AI powered tool to enhance the way that people work. And our vision of the future, I think, is a little different than some of the dystopian doom and gloom that you sometimes are hearing when people are talking about AI. Our vision is a world where AI is augmenting humans and helping them do their jobs and allowing people to move on to problems that today they're not even thinking about. So in this first episode of Nova Talks, I wanted to get a little bit into the details of the philosophy that is animating our work here at Nova Echo and explain a little bit more about our company and our values as humans. And I want to do it in a way that's a little different because I think we've all sort of seen corporate values and are rightly skeptical of what those actually mean in practice. And so Nova Talks is meant to be just a very transparent way to reach people and allow them to ask questions and talk to us about what is happening with artificial intelligence. How is we're a startup, but we're an AI startup, so we're very much in this game. We're very much thinking about this technology, how it's going to get used, how it's going to get deployed, and being able to talk to me and talk to the executive leaders about what sort of choices we're making. I'm hoping we'll get a conversation going. And so today I want to talk about the values of Nova Echo as just a starting point to share a little bit of who we are and what we want to be discussing on these calls, as well as just hear from anyone that decides to join us what it is that they want to talk about as well. So it's meant to be a roundtable. It's meant to just be a conversation, a dialogue. It's not scripted. It's not like some corporate presentation or anything like that. This really is like, we're here, we're real humans, we're computer scientists, we're AI researchers, and we're trying very hard to think about ways to improve artificial intelligence and also at the same time design a system that people are going to be able to control and use AI instead of just like what the conversation has been about so far, which is like, oh, great, we're greedy billionaires and we're going to replace all of you annoying humans with your bathroom breaks and vacations and mental health and idiosyncrasies. Like, no, that's not the vision. That's not the idea at all. So first of all, let's talk a little bit. I just want to share, a bit of my background and talk a bit about how I became involved with Nova Echo. So I'm an agile coach. I've had my own coaching and consulting practice for 20 years now. And I've worked as an independent contractor that would get hired by large companies to help them through technology transformations. So my job title would be agile coach. And what that would mean is it's a little bit like corporate training. It's a little bit like project management. It's a little bit of, kind of leadership for hire. My very first gig was a long time ago when the internet was just starting to roll out in all over the world. And I went and I lived and I worked in Vietnam as a project manager working for the Canadian government. So the Canadian government distributes aid. We all know, like, these aid programs. Well, I got a contract to go and live and work in Vietnam and be the representative on the ground to help roll out the internet. So I was right there at the beginning, and I was traveling around Vietnam. I was visiting universities around Vietnam, and I was working with the locals to install servers in the internet and connect it. And we were connecting it to the United Nations, and they were sending us poverty reduction playbooks, basically like documentation and business plans for farmers, primarily for farmers. And then part of that was also to lend money to farmers, and they could buy capital equipment, they could buy tractors, they could improve their fields, they could create buildings, whatever, buy crops, buy livestock. And so it's called micro lending now, but we didn't have a fancy term like that at the time. And so I was basically like installing like a banking server that allowed the Canadian government to issue loans to Vietnamese farmers as part of the the reintegration of Vietnam into the global economy after the Vietnam War. They were isolated for a very long time, and they rejoined the world in the late 90s. And then I went there and I helped to deploy these computers. And these computers then helped to facilitate loans. So since that time, I've been working with institutions, governments, banks, and companies. Whenever there's a new technology, which is every few years, there's a new version of technology that these companies need to adopt and integrate, and they need coaching and they need help figuring out, like, what do we do? So imagine, travel back in time 20, 30 years, companies are going, what's this internet? How do we use it? Look at all of these employees that we have that type at typewriters, and all these, people that are transcribing notes and attending meetings and making notes. What are we going to do with all these people? And inevitably, Bill Gates would come along and say, hey, I've got something called a word processor, and I'm going to sell you this software, and you're going to be able to fire all of these people, get rid of these people, fire them, get them out of here. And oh, isn't that wonderful? Now you don't have all the problems of human beings, and you just get a machine to do it. They're so reliable, they're so scalable. And of course, all the companies fell for it. That's why Bill Gates is one of the richest people in the world. It didn't fall for it. It wasn't a trick, but they definitely were oversold on the capabilities. Windows 95 did not actually replace anybody's human job, but it created a lot of new jobs that nobody knew were going to be a job back in 1995. So, email administrator and network engineer and, um, you like web designer, a graphic designer, copywriter. Copywriter was a job, but all of a sudden there was way more demand for copywriting because there was way more websites that everyone needed and wanted. And so back in the 90s when I was in school, which is hard to believe, we were in the cave, we were chiseling on the side of the cave. I'm just kidding. It was just my birthday recently, and my daughter loves to tease me about my age. I'm like, you don't know enough 80 and 90-year-olds if you think I'm a very young person. I've got gray hair because I earned it, but other than that, I'm a young person. So anyway, back in the 90s, we were not chiseling on walls. That was more something that the boomers did. I'm not a baby boomer. But anyway, so we were trying to understand how things would change, and honestly, no one got it right. Absolutely, no one got it right. No one, like, not that I came across anyway, not that anyone that I talked to. People were talking about all kinds of pie in the sky things that like there would be riots, and there would be a dystopian future because these machines would come in and take over everyone's job. So the other reason that's relevant is because we're hearing the same thing today about AI. Um, and I'm not disagreeing that there's definitely going to be disruption and there's definitely going to be changes, but I am very, very adamant that the way it gets rolled out is not going to be the way that people think. There have been layoffs. I'm not saying that there haven't been, and I don't want to, diminish anyone. That's like there are people that have lost their jobs already because of AI. There's going to be more of that, and honestly, I think it sucks, and I think it's a mistake. I think it's a mistake for these companies to be doing that, and the reason that I think it's a mistake is because the effect that we saw when the internet was first introduced as well is that there's a lot of things that you don't know today that you're going to need human beings to be doing that machines cannot do. And if you just go and lay everybody off and fire everyone, um, first of all, you're going to create a recession. So good job, executives of the world. Way to go, billionaire class. You've got all these wonderful company stocks, but no consumers and customers to buy anything because they're all hoarding their dollars, afraid that you're going to continue massive cuts and layoffs. So that is something that people seem to think should happen and shouldn't. But anyway, but what there is so what we see again and again and again, what I've seen throughout my career, like I said, starting all the way back, bringing the internet itself. And after the internet, it was web applications. It's like, okay, well, then first we need the internet. Then we need a website. Then we need a web application. And then we need all of these different web applications and all of these departments. So the HR department needs a web application. And the internal administration needs a web application, and then payroll needs an application, and then the sales team needs an application. So all of these web apps created all kinds of opportunities that no one really foresaw when computers and the internet was just appearing. Some people did, of course. Now they own companies and they're prosperous billionaires, but the majority of the talking class and the talking weren't saying, there's going to be a whole bunch of new jobs that you just can't anticipate today. So, the internet, then it was websites, then it was web applications, then it was, cloud computing. So all of a sudden now it was like you needed to have your application, but you also need to migrate into the cloud. And for years, nobody even knew what that meant. Like, you go back to 2007, 2010, and ask me like, "Oh, your strategy includes the cloud," and it's like, "Oh, absolutely, yes, yes." Our talk to the CIO. Oh, yes, yes, we have a cloud strategy. You better believe we have a cloud strategy. As a because the cloud is the next big thing, and it's very important. And what are you going to do with the cloud? I don't know. And nobody really knew. Nobody really understood the use case. And this seems to be happening again and again and again in technology. The technology comes out because it can do something, and then it takes a couple of years for people to figure out what it's actually going to be good at doing. And so with the cloud, for example, it was a couple of years before people figured out, oh, we can set up development environments in the cloud and we can use that to iterate on lots of smaller scale applications, and it can really speed up testing and speed up deployments. But at first it was just like, I guess we need to have the cloud. It's important. And I guess maybe we'll use it for backing up data. I don't know. Like, people just didn't know. They just didn't have good, clear answers. And I know that because they were hiring me to come in and work with them on their strategies and coach them on their transformations. That's, like I say, that's been my business for the last 20 plus years. Companies hear about a new technology and they hire experts to come in and teach them about that technology, and then they work on a strategy to make that technology work for them. And that process takes years. It takes years. These big institutions are very large. They're very fragmented. They're very, they operate like little petty kingdoms inside of an empire called whatever, Verizon or Bank of America. And inside are all these little kingdoms, and they don't talk to each other and they don't integrate. And that's why, when you call for customer service, you get put on hold and transferred to this department and that department. It's crazy, right? So people don't know exactly how AI is going to roll out, and they don't know exactly how it's going to get used. And what I've seen again and again and again, all of these automation promises, which are not new, like people have been promising automation for decades, is that it gets sold as a way to save money on labor, and it gets deployed, but it can't work effectively without actually having humans in the mix. And that's how we have designed Nova Echo right from the start, right from the scratch. The vision always was we want to build an AI tool that puts and keeps humans in the mix. Humans are going to use this tool to do a lot of things that today are done by humans, like data entry and answering FAQs and things like that. Sure, but humans are going to be in the mix. And what that means in a very practical sense is that we're not trying to design a tool that is going to automate and take a whole bunch of jobs away from people. We're designing our Nova Echo platform to enhance existing jobs and existing roles so that the people that are in those jobs today can do both what they do today and solve the unknown problems that are not getting addressed. And this is a really interesting thing that I've seen. What happens is when companies roll out some new technology, they assume that it's a static kind of an environment where they work and what they deliver, and so this new technology is going to replace a bunch of jobs. But what actually ends up happening with new technology is it creates capacity, because you've got people that are more productive because they've got a tool that makes them more productive. So you've got capacity to solve new problems and new tools that allow them to work on emergent problems that they weren't looking at before. And so some examples of that might be things like, a customer service rep is able to get more involved with existing clients. So they don't just have to work with incoming calls coming in directly in from the website. Now they can also work with existing customers and reach out to existing customers and coach those existing customers on all kinds of different scenarios that are unique to that customer, and allow that customer to become more successful with the company. And it's like, oh, well, we weren't ever doing that before because we didn't have any capacity. But now that we have an AI tool that helps answer some of the basic questions, the humans can get involved in answering more complex questions and navigating complex relationships with people, like like a corporate client that has a completely unique implementation of our tool. And now our frontline customer service rep gets a raise because now they're doing a much more valuable service that they didn't have any capacity to do before they had a tool. So I see we've got some questions here. So specifically, how is Nova Echo 2.0 built for humans managing AI? So that's a great question. Um, so so what I'm talking about here in practice is how we design Nova Echo. So Nova Echo is basically a call orchestration technology that uses multiple different AIs. It reaches out to do AI for voice transcription. It reaches out to do AI for translation. It reaches out to do AI for response generation. It reaches out to do AI for voice synthesis. Those are all these different services that are out there. But what's unique about ours is it's a platform that is able to orchestrate all of these services in real time while talking to a customer. And that's what makes it conversational voice AI. And our tool, unique in the conversational voice AI space, provides a real-time monitoring capability. So we designed it so that you can actually see in real time how our Nova Echo agents are interacting with all of these different AI systems that are doing a job in the background. And that's important because this is a valuable relationship. Your Echo agent is talking to a live customer, and we as human beings should not trust AI to do automations that today people are doing. We just should not be ready for that. And so we've designed our system with a real-time monitoring dashboard that allows the manager or the human being, it doesn't matter what their job title is, any human being that's using our tool will be able to look and monitor in real time and see exactly what the AI is actually doing. And not just what the AI is saying, but what all these other background services are doing with things like transcription and voice synthesis and so on, so that they can be monitoring the performance of the AI and treat that AI like an employee. Okay, so if you've ever worked in a call center, I worked in a call center when I was in university, and we had call center agents like me. I was a human agent, and I was on the phone, and boop, hi, this is John. Do you want to buy car insurance? Whatever. Um, it was a hard job, right? Because people would hang up on you. And at the same time, in the office was a human being. The human being was listening to the agents make their phone calls, and you would go and you would get training and you would get feedback from the human being. The human being that had that manager role usually would have worked as a call center agent, and then they've been promoted and to a manager role, and they were monitoring the agents on the phone and listening to them and going and speaking to them and saying, okay, this could have been different, and this could have been different, and this could have been better, and that could have been better, and so on. We designed Nova Echo so that a human being can actually watch in real time what the agent is doing in terms of generating feedback and responses, as well as all of the other services that are integrated into the call orchestrator, so that that human being can analyze that data, look at that data, and then go back and update and modify and change and train and improve the AI agent. Right? So it's designed for a human in the mix to be able to see what the agent is doing and then be able to go back and improve how that agent is actually performing and doing their job. And that's going to be a continuous role, like monitoring AIs and observing what they're doing and then gathering data on the performance of those AIs and then knowing how to go back to tweak and improve those AIs. That's a continuous role that we can foresee as the kind of opportunity to move into higher value roles where today are just doing, say, customer service. Tomorrow, they'll be doing AI employee management, monitoring different AIs in their capacity to do all kinds of different tasks. So that's just one example of how we are engineering a product that puts the humans in the mix and is very transparent. All of those services that are part of a conversational voice AI are available to be monitored and configured in the Nova Echo 2.0 platform. And unlike anyone else in this space right now, because this is still super new, everyone else is trying to design, the perfect AI employee that's going to do it all. And you can fire your whole office and have 0 employees, and your AI is going to do it all. And I'm like, no, no. I've been doing this for a long time. I've been introducing new technologies for a long time. And I've been watching company after company after company that I work with start with an idea that they're going to be able to automate some process only to discover that they actually need their people to monitor and manage and work with this tool. So the best tools are the tools that are designed with human beings in mind right from the start. And I don't see anyone that is doing that in AI right now. Like, I'm sorry, but I don't. I pay attention. I'm looking at competitors. I'm looking at what they're doing. They're all trying to provide a platform where you can build an AI and then just let that AI loose in the wild to just go and attack, harass your customers and beg them for money or whatever you can do. It's going to be annoying. Okay, I'm very sure of that. Like, I don't even know if anyone's going to want to answer their phone in a couple of years. I'd be very interested to be a fly on the wall of like the Verizon board meeting and hear like They're gonna want to even pick up their phone. Like, is why would you? It's going to be some spam calling to harass you. I'm just not interested. So like I can definitely see that being a problem that they're thinking a lot about. And what's going to happen is the same thing that happened when email spam started to appear. After email started just blowing up in the early 2000s, the 90s, whenever exactly you want to call that. I remember some of the first projects that I did were around privacy legislation. So you can imagine the government is already well down thinking about regulations for artificial intelligence. And I just watched a very compelling video from Bernie Sanders because I wanted to see in YouTube. If I go into YouTube and I type in AI, just those two letters, AI, what's going to come up first? The first thing that came up was a Bernie Sanders video, and he was talking about AI regulations and ways to make sure that AI, that the workers that are going to be impacted by AI have a bigger say in how AI gets rolled out. And politics aside, like I know that there's politics and whatever, but it's like if you can remove the idea from the politics, it's like as a hard nosed business professional for 20 years, I completely agree. I absolutely agree that like that is what we should be doing. We should be having AI legislation. Like there needs to be standards that is going to employees in the mix. That's not just like a nice thing to do. In the last 20 years, from the dawn of the internet, rolling out web applications, big data, and all of these different changes along the way, I have seen automation works best when it is approached from a perspective of respect for the humans. And I think next time we'll talk a little bit more about our philosophy of agile. We've been an agile company right from the start, and that means more than just being reactive. Agile started as a manifesto about respecting humanity, and it's been on the internet for 20 years unchanged. The Agile Manifesto came out 20 years ago because engineers even then recognized that like don't treat people like machines. People are unique and they have very unique skills. If you treat them like machines, they're just not going to behave in the way that you expect. But if you bring them in and make them part of the design process and try to figure out how this technology can help human beings, now you have something that is really, really powerful and really, really useful again and again and again and again. With every major technology shift over the last 20 plus years of coaching and consulting for major enterprises, that's always been the pattern that we've seen. So I see we've got a couple of questions here. I'm just going to try to quickly answer this question here. So what are some of the features that make Nova Echo 2.0 so much better than Nova Echo 1.5? The main difference is the call monitoring capability. Having that transparent monitoring feature. It also, at the end of every call, actually uses an AI model that we fine-tuned to make recommendations so that a human can read those recommendations and summarize the call. So, the call summary feature in 2.0, there's nothing like that. So, if you're doing, a lot of calls, if you have a lot of calls to go through as a human manager, the call summary feature really helps you identify trends and understand which of your agents are performing um, better than others, and go back through and take a look at the behavior during the call, retrieve that and analyze that as well. So, like the call monitoring, the real-time live call monitoring, but also call summary analysis are two really powerful features that we built for human beings that are leading, training, managing, updating, upgrading, monitoring AI employees. And that's one of the main roles that we see in the future is like a manager of AI agents. And I think Novak is the only company right now in the market that is designing a system from the ground up for humans that plan to manage AI employees. And build those AI employees on our platform, but also that in such a way that you as a human being will be able to monitor and manage that AI employee. I don't think anyone is thinking about that. It's a huge leap from what we did with 1.5. And I think it's the right approach for the long-term viability of integrating AI into our human-based economy. Is there any other questions for our inaugural Nova Talk? Okay. Well, that was great. Thank you all for joining us, and thank you for your wonderful questions. This is something we're going to do on a regular basis to let people understand that we are real humans, real people, trying to build technology for other people as well. And we need your help. We need your help because we need your inspiration and your feedback and your input in order to build a platform that really helps human beings monitor and manage and control their AI agents and we see that as a very valuable and important role in the future. So that's all for today. Thank you very much, everyone. I look forward to our next conversation. We'll be back next week for Nova Talks. Bye bye.